Hi, Willie Mayette from Piano with Willie. Welcome to this lesson today on why to use rootless chord voicings. So what I've learned in working for years with students is that if a student doesn't understand why they should use a certain technique, then they're most likely not to use that technique. Makes perfect sense, right? If you don't understand why you're doing it, then why do it at all, right? So today I want to talk about why you would use rootless chord voicings, all right? I also have a short little piece of sheet music here so that you can kind of try this as well at home so you can download it and print it. So the first why is that rootless chord voicings allow you to open up your playing. So typically I just have like the first four measures of Fly Me to the Moon here. So. Okay, and then we go through this lesson in the Piano with Willie's site as well. Okay, so I have my melody here and I see the chord changes written up above, and I would normally play what? If I was a beginning student, I might play block chords down here, just plain old seventh chords. Right? And then, there's nothing wrong with starting that way, but block chords are called block chords for a reason. They sound very blocky. They're all based upon thirds, right? And there's usually never a, like seconds or anything in there. It's all thirds, 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 right? They're very blocky, right? So as you start to get more sophisticated as a player, you want to start to incorporate more sophisticated sounds. This is where our rootless chord voicings come in. So now you see in the next example, I could play this rootless chord voicing. There's my A minor, there's my D minor, there's my G7, and there's my C major. And now I get... You'll notice that I just did something there, right? See how notice how I get rid of this thumb over here in the left hand, so I'll do it slowly. See how I move my thumb? Because a lot of times when playing these rootless chord voicings, your hands get very close together, or they might even start to conflict with one another. And a lot of times students get scared off by that. I know that for a reason and for a fact because I used to get scared off by that as well. When I was playing, I'm like, oh man, my hands are so close. Like, should they really be that close? It's all right. And you start to get comfortable with that as you build up these rootless chord voicings a lot more, okay? So the first why here is that now this gives you a more sophisticated sound. But there's something that we're missing now in these rootless chord voicings. It's in the title, rootless. We don't have the root of the chord anymore. You notice that for my A minor, no A in there. D minor, no D in there. G7, no G in there. And C major, no C in there. We replaced those notes of the chord with tensions. Okay? So now a tension obviously is like the 9th, the 11th, the 13th, and we go through this in our left-handed voicings lessons as well. Okay? So anyway, the point is, as you understand tensions, all right, so we've gotten to that point, you know your tensions, now you can start to replace these notes in the chord with these tensions. So it gives it a much more sophisticated sound, but without a root. So why do we play without a root? Well, guess who we might be playing with? That's right, a bass player, right? So if you're playing with a bass player, okay, so you might be playing with a bass player, and these chords you might be doing here in your left hand. So boom, boom, boom. So you have some bass player playing along while you're playing those rootless chord voicings. So we take out the root of the chord because why double that root? If the bass player is already playing it, it allows us to get in some of those other notes of the chord, like the 9ths, the 11ths, the 13ths. Right? Let me pause for a second, because remember the first time you saw the chord symbol C9, and you're thinking, oh, it's supposed to play a dominant 7th with a 9th, and you wonder, how am I ever going to be able to play all those notes? Now, I got a big hand, so I can play them, but it's still not even comfortable for me to play this. So how do you play it? You get rid of the root, and now it's a rootless chord voicing. The 9th is up here, and And on this particular chord, as you learn in the left-hand chord voicings, you can also replace the 5th with the 13th, right? It's a much more sophisticated sound. So these rootless chord voicings allow you to bring in those tensions that you've seen written in music, that you've heard about, that you've thought about, but you might have been wondering, well, gee, how do I actually get them into my playing if I have to play the root as well? Now, there's something that I call the rootless chords with a bass stomp, all right, or a root stomp, and that's something like this. Right, and I'll talk about that in tomorrow's video. I'm going to send you another video tomorrow, so watch for that in your email. That one is going to be, when do you use rootless chord voicings, okay? So right now, today, we're just talking about why you use them. All right, so this is all kind of jazz-based, right? You might be thinking, okay, well, yeah, that's all fine, but I like playing like more like kind of pop music. You know, just something like that, just simple chord, a C chord to an F chord, you know, just kind of like more of a pop kind of sound. All right, so now how do rootless chord voicings come into play there? Well, if I have my root down here that I'm playing with my left hand, why do I need 3 roots in this chord? I don't. Now this allows me to be able to do things like this. Do you see how I can bring in these other chords here, these other tensions and other notes? So now here, rather than playing the root, listen to that chord. Now listen to the difference between that and that subtle change, just moving that root up to the 9th, right? It's such a cool sound, isn't it? Add my 5th up there. So these rootless voicings can also be applied to the right hand. Once you understand the topic and the concept of taking the root out of your chord, it's not style specific. I mean, this could be used in any style. You're going to play Latin music. All this up here, all this Montuno stuff, all rootless chord voicings. You're going to play blues stuff, like also kind of gospel as well. Again, rootless stuff. This is all kind of scale chords kind of stuff. Rootless chord voicings, not playing the root. Instead, the root is down here in my left hand. So one of the most important things that you can do as a pianist to really bump up your playing level is to start to move away from playing block chords. Start to move away from playing just plain old dominant 7th chords, plain old major 7ths, minor 7ths. Shying away from just playing a 7th chord, right? Whether it's major, minor, or dominant, whatever it is, okay? That's like, so in the typical arc of learning the piano, beginners learn triads, and then the next thing you learn is you learn your 7th chords, but then immediately after those 7th chords you start learning how to take the root out and then replace those chord tones in the right hand or left hand with tensions. This is our rootless chord voicings, okay? So as you can see, it's some really powerful stuff, and there's some really cool sounds that you can get using these rootless chord voicings. Okay, so like I said, hang with me tomorrow. I'm going to send you a video, and we're going to talk about when you use these rootless chord voicings to really get some maximum benefit out of them. All right, so I'll see you in tomorrow's lesson.